Five, four, three, two, one. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. We are coming to you, as always, from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire.
Or so he
Uh,
thinks.
Today, we're going to be talking about those stories of old, those legends. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be discussing the original stories that made up the expanded universe. Um, as I said, the stories that have now been categorized as Star Wars legends. And for this discussion, I am joined by the host of Breaking the Fourth Wall. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Christopher Stolle. Is
Hey,
it
well,
Stolle or Stolle?
it's Stolly, but
Stolle.
as
Okay,
long
it's
as
kind of like
as long as you
okay.
spell it right on my paycheck, I don't care.
Yeah.
Call me what you
So
want.
I just remember I'm Tolly, you're Stolle.
That's it.
Hey, there we go. Tolly Stolle.
And we're all part of the Lollipop Guild. Represent the wrong movie. Sorry. Don't let me derail your show, please.
No. So for me personally, and I think I've said this before, even though I was a Star Wars fan before, I think I was more of a casual fan. You know, I watched the movies, I loved the movies, but it was the books that really drug me in. And it was the original Thrawn trilogy. Those were the first EU books I read. I think for a lot of people, that was probably the first EU books most people read.
The Thrawn trilogy. Oh yeah, that was the
But
first I. That was the
yeah,
first one I was introduced to. Yeah, and
and that's what really brought my, birthed my fandom to where it is now. Was reading those books and just being so enthralled, and to the fact that, um, and you can either agree or disagree, but for me, when I heard Timothy Zahn's description of Coruscant, and then I watched when the first time you see it, and at the end of the remastered Return of the Jedi, when they're having the parties and you see them pulling down the statue of Palpatine, the first thing I thought of was, holy crap, that's Coruscant, and it was exactly like I envisioned it because of how Timothy Zahn painted that picture of what that planet looked like.
no, you're absolutely right. I think back in those days, the Timothy Zahn trilogy, the Thrawn trilogy for what it was, I think was actually considered by George Lucas himself and Lucasfilm at the time the official sequel to the original
Yes.
trilogy. At that point, so yeah, it makes a lot of sense that when Lucas went back and revisited the original trilogy, and of course when he did the prequels,
Hmm.
he decided to make Coruscant look exactly as Thrawn had described it. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Now
So
I don't know if uh, Zahn had originally been the one that conceptualized Coruscant,
yes,
or if
he
it was
did.
some.
From what I understand, he was the one that came up with the name and the idea of what this planet would look like.
Okay,
So
I was about to say, or if it was something Lucas said to him when he was doing the books, like, "Hey, this is my idea of the central world."
yeah,
You know what I
yeah. I
mean?
mean, it could have been a mixture of. I know he came up with the name,
Okay.
uh, because his idea was that when you're flying into the planet from space, it has this goldish um, hue to it, kind of like this amber color. Um,
Okay.
but so he, for some reason, because of that, he named the planet Coruscant.
And I remember when I was a kid, I'd always call a crescent like the like a crescent roll. I
Yes.
really couldn't say Coruscant for whatever reason. So, or at least in my own head while I'm reading the books, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
planet Crescent,
Crescent.
crescent roll. Yeah, that reminds me, I'm hungry. Yeah.
Oh wow. But yeah, I mean, and that book really introduced so many characters that would be would really last throughout the entire run of Legends, really. And I mean, of course, there's Thrawn, the most famous one, but Talon Karrde, Mara Jade, uh, the Solo twins. They all were introduced in that book, and really they played such a pivotal role throughout the entire run that it's really interesting to see how each writer, for better or for worse, tried to build on what Timothy Zahn had done in those first books.
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head that which kind of really sums up what you wanted to talk about here was there were so many writers trying to expand on Zahn's first original idea that it was both a blessing in the fact that it was expanding the universe at the time. You got to remember when most of this stuff came out, there was no more Star Wars.
Yes.
Return to Jedi was it, unless you count the holiday special and the Ewok adventure.
Yeah.
Star Wars was done, and nobody knew at the time that Lucas had intended to do the prequels. So we knew he had a backstory, but we didn't know if he was ever going to put them to film.
Yeah, and that's what made these books. I mean, I remember when they came out in like the early '90s. It was like, holy crap! Excuse me. Holy! I mean, there's new Star Wars out. Holy crap! What is this? So, I mean, that was. I mean, it was exciting. If you're a Star Wars fan, it was exciting because it was like new stuff. We got new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
that was the only way Star Wars continued to exist was through these books and through comics like Dark Horse and the original Marvel run. Not the Marvel now with Disney, but I mean the old school Marvel runs where they looked more like G.I. Joe characters than they did, how they look today as far as in the comics. But that was both a great thing and a bad thing in the EU because you got great stories like Luke building his Jedi temple on Yavin 4. What was it? The Ghost of Exar Kun haunting Yavin 4. Basically, the Champion of the Force trilogy was awesome. All the way up to the Crystal Star. I think was a great book. But then you got into things like the New Jedi Order, and it's sad for me to say because R.A. Salvatore is one of my favorite fantasy authors.
yes.
I grew up loving his Forgotten Realm books. I was a huge fan of the character Dritz Duarden that he introduced. He's what him and Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss are pretty much the reason why I even got into Dungeons and Dragons because of their writing styles in that fantasy genre. But he ruined Star Wars for me, at least as far as book form is concerned. The Vector Prime and Chewbacca, spoilers, Chewbacca being crushed by a moon.
Yes.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back as far as I'm concerned with the EU.
Yeah. Well, I think just for me, that whole, what were their names? The aliens.
The Yuuzhan Vong.
Yeah, the Vong. That whole series just went on for too long. I mean, that was like, what, a 10-book series, maybe more? It just seemed like it kept going and going and going, and it was like, will this end? And, I think that before it kind of worked because the books and the stories seem to be done in 3 to 4 book series.
Right.
Maybe sometimes even 2 or just 1. With the exception of the X-Wing series, but even the X-Wing series would be, you'd have a set of 3 books, then you have other books, you have another set of a few books, then some more books. But I think with the Vong saga, it just went on for so long. You had an enemy that was just, and this may sound weird, but I never like an enemy that seems like they're, to get to the point that they're completely undefeatable.
Well, I'm fine with it when you think of somebody like Vader. Vader and the Empire in itself was supposed to be the unbeatable evil. And it wasn't until the hero's journey that really showed the chink in Vader's armor. Yeah. And also the fact that Vader wasn't the most powerful guy in the universe. It was, Mr. Sheev, Palpatine. But that was an interesting dynamic. The problem is too many people tried to recreate that, and I think what ruined the Yuuzhan Vong started long before the EU was, and I'll even point the finger at Zahn for this, was creating too many MacGuffins against the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Now I get the idea that Jedi's are OP to begin with, and like especially now, like not to bring modern times in, people bitching about new Force powers,
Yeah.
but you EU alumnus, for lack of a better term, were okay with the Yasmari creating anti-force bubbles.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. Little tree
Well,
hugging creatures that block the force from existence. I mean,
well, I do, and to play devil's advocate, I do actually like the way that, and I have no problem with some of the newer force powers, but the way that Zahn described why how they developed this was it was a defense mechanism against creatures that use the force to hunt.
no, I got the reason why, but
Yeah.
I'm pointing the fingers. That's where it kind of started, where all of a sudden they're creating these MacGuffins to handle the new Jedi Order, and every time somebody created a MacGuffin to do that, it was more elaborate, more extreme, more to the point that all of a sudden now it's an invasion from unknown space of creatures that are literally immune to the Force.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, isn't the Force to me that almost destroyed like the legacy of what the Force was almost as badly as midichlorians.
Mm.
You know what I mean? If the Force is all around, surrounds and binds, and everything else, isn't that more powerful than anything in the universe? You're making it limited now. You're kind of ruining
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Well, and it wasn't just Islamiri that were the Vaughn were outside of the force too.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is that you're limiting what's supposed to be limitless.
Yeah.
Just like Luke is trying to quantify it in the first movie. I
Mm-hmm.
get their reasons. I don't agree with the reasons.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And my reasons for not agreeing it are because of the fact that you just made it escalate to the point where it was no longer even believable
Mm.
in the stories.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, even one of the biggest complaints I've heard people say of the old EU was just how powerful Luke got. Luke got to almost Super Saiyan, uber godlike levels of power. But anyway, and another complaint I've heard is with one of the most popular characters is how Thrawn became just this character that he figured things out just because he was Thrawn. He
I'd
almost
I'd have to disagree with that, but go ahead. Go ahead. Continue. I'm
uh,
sorry.
at least later on, he kind of had that kind of. Uh, anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway,
No,
um,
no. I think I get where you're coming from. Where he was just too intelligent for his own good, and you know what? Great. Again, that goes back to that character dynamic that was awesome. With Thrawn. Thank you.
mhm,
He was a character who didn't need to be the ghost of some Sith
yeah,
or some overpowered clone or something like that. He was a character who was a race of alien that was about as average as any race of alien could be. But the guy was intelligent and he studied his enemies. He studied
mhm,
their movement. He studied their art. He studied their culture. He got to know his enemy. He was basically real world equivalent, like the guy who wrote The Art of War, Sun Tzu.
Sun Tzu, yeah,
Yeah, Sun Tzu. He
yeah,
was basically Sun Tzu. It wasn't that he was an extraordinary character. He was a learned character. And that's what
yeah.
made him dangerous. Knowledge is power, and that was his thing.
And not to constantly bring in new stuff in, but that's why I love how he's been portrayed in Rebels.
Oh, I
Because
think they nailed him in Rebels
oh,
perfectly.
and there's one scene in particular where he figures out where their rebel base is, and I loved how they showed his thought process for okay, this culture's art predicts this planet here, so that therefore all these things are coming, all these transmissions are coming here. There's nothing here. The maps are showing nothing here, but this ancient piece of art shows that there's something there. Therefore, there's something there.
Right.
I love how they showed that, and yeah, you're right. His thinking and his thought process and how they just nailed it in Rebels is just and they could have gotten a better person to do that voice.
It was
It's Middleton's brother.
yeah. So I was gonna say it was Middleton's brother, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of odd that they're both now in Star Wars.
I think it's perfect. I think
Yeah,
it's perfect, and I think it's an awesome addition because I mean it's kind of like not to go off Star Wars topic, but it's kind of like the casting of the Harry Potter movies.
yes,
When I read the Harry Potter books, I all the characters were very generic to me, but one really stood out. And when the movies came out, Professor Snape could not have been played by anybody but the late great Alan Rickman. I mean, he was
yeah,
to a T what you envision, what you heard in the voice, what you saw in the demeanor and the mannerisms. When you read the book, I think that's the exact same thing that Dave Filoni and his team were able to recreate in Rebels with Thrawn and
yeah,
grabbing Nick Mickelson to do the voice. It was just sometimes things just come together perfectly, and I think that's one of those times.
yes, yeah. And the fact that they brought in, they just didn't bring in Thrawn, but they brought him in as commander of the original ship that he was in the Thrawn trilogy, the Chimera.
Right.
I thought that was the only thing that's missing is I have yet to have heard them mention Pelayan, Captain Pelayan.
I was gonna say, yeah, Captain Palayan's not there. They did introduce
Yeah,
Rua,
Rook.
Rook,
Rook.
Rook.
Yeah,
They
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 haven't named the species yet.
no, but they did introduce him, and ironically enough, he's being played by Wicked the Ewok. But
Yes, yeah. But yeah, I was really excited because Rook, the Noldor were one of my favorite races that the EU introduced. I thought they were just a really cool dynamic of one of just the stories of how the Empire was so manipulative
hmm
of you know destroying this world, making it look like it was someone else, and then manipulating the species into doing whatever they wanted, and to have them basically worshiping the ground that they walked on.
well, that again, bringing up something that you were saying about the Empire, that's something that made Thrawn even more of a very appealing character. Besides his intellect, and also legitimizes his learned intellect,
Yeah.
is the fact that the Empire was extremely xenophobic.
Yes.
Okay, they hated aliens. They hated non-human beings. Okay, and Thrawn was not only to be able to be part of the naval military service of the Empire, but to rise to the rank of Grand Admiral,
Yeah.
being a non-human race.
Mm-hmm.
That is an achievement unto itself. That somebody like I'm gonna throw a slight bit of politics. I don't care if people believe this or don't believe this. The way President Trump is perceived by a lot of people, if he were Emperor Palpatine, with the perceptions that people have for Trump, and then all of a sudden he hired Pablo Escobar to be his admiral of naval forces, that's kind of the equivalent. Is
Yeah.
you grab this super genius, but he's not human, but he's so strategic and perfect for your military leadership that you overlook your own xenophobia.
Yeah.
You got to be something special.
Well, and not to get too meta or too, in universe here, but
Right.
I never really truly believed that Palpatine himself was xenophobic. I think he took advantage of the overall feeling of a large part of the galaxy at that time, and just kind of rode the wave. Because if you look, I mean, one of his top advisors was an alien.
Right.
The guy with the that
Maz-
stood,
Mazamata.
yeah. Um, so I don't necessarily think that he himself was xenophobic or didn't like alien races. He'd use whoever he could that could benefit him. It didn't matter if it was human, alien. If they benefited him, then he would use them.
Okay, well, that's fair
So
enough.
he just kind of took advantage of the kind of how the galaxy was feeling at the time. That a lot of these, when the Empire was formed, a lot of these uh, planets that had been separatist were alien, were ran by aliens. So there's already a large anti-alien feeling amongst the galaxy, and Palpatine just kind of tapped into that.
Okay.
But
Well, I mean, there's a lot of good things that were in the EU, and
yeah,
Thrawn was only one of them. Of course, we could point to the fact one character that I think Star Wars fans, both original purists, purists, people who embrace the new, I think everybody will riot against Disney and Lucasfilm if they never canonize this character, would be Darth Revan.
yes, yeah,
Now,
I agree.
Now, people who may not know that are watching this video, Darth Revan was a character that was first introduced and created for the video game series Knights of the Old Republic,
Hmm.
and this character is so beloved as both a Sith Lord and somebody who returned back to the light, depending on how you played the game. Quite honestly,
Yeah,
and of course there was a novel later on created for Revan, but this character is so beloved that I honestly think almost everybody would stop being a Star Wars fan if Pablo Hidalgo came up onto Twitter one day and said, "Look, Revan's never going to be canon."
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. I would. There would be several knocks at his door.
Yeah.
Star Wars fans would.
I think
What do you mean?
I think out of all the EU, I think that's the one character that like you have no choice. You've got to figure out a way of making him canon.
Yeah, I think the first one was definitely Thrawn, and now Revan is the next one.
Well,
Uh,
the thing is, before Clone Wars was ended, Dave Filoni had actually created Revan for an
oh
episode.
yeah, yeah, I heard that.
He was supposed to be canon in season 7 of Clone Wars.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, they cut it at season 5 and just released season 6. So Revan was never actually officially canonized, but he was set to become canon.
yeah. Oh yeah, I remember hearing that too, because they canonized Bane
Mm-hmm.
in season 6. I remember that they made Bane canon.
Voiced by Luke Skywalker.
Oh, that was Hamill.
That was Hamill.
Wow, wow.
Yeah, so everything comes full circle, doesn't it?
I know, right? Um, well, let's talk another character that I can think of that. Um, well, let's talk about some of the characters that probably will never see the light of day. Um, the
Dash
solo twin, the
the the,
solo twin,
the Solo twins.
the solo twins, and Ben Skywalker.
Well, I
We
think
got Solo.
I think they kind of saw the light of day in the fact that they all got combined together and created Kylo Ren.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, of course, when the trilogy first started, I was theorizing or flirting with the idea that Jason and Jancia would be basically Rey and Kylo, but
yeah,
obviously things didn't work out that way. My theory
yeah,
was wrong. But oh well. But I really think that those characters kind of in a sense are canon, just not in the way that we expected it. They
hmm,
took the personality traits of all of them, the dark side turn of Jason and Anakin and yeah, Solo and stuff like that, and became
yeah,
Ben Solo, Kylo Ren.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, for what
Um,
that's worth.
yeah, yeah. I can see that. I think that there are um, definitely differences between the characters as far as like when uh, Jason um, turned to the dark side, it was at a much older age than um, Ben did. Ben's like what in his supposed to be what in his mid 20s probably.
Give or take mid to late 20s, yeah.
Yeah, and
But that's when he's now. I think when he turned, he was supposed to be around about the same age as uh,
Luke.
Ray is supposed to be, which is like
Yeah,
19.
yeah. Whereas in the books, you know, Jason was already a high-ranking general. He was already a high official, and probably in his 40s when he turned and became Darth Caedus.
Right.
So there's that difference, and I think that as far as the characterization is Caedus seemed much more in the vein of a Palpatine as far as his evil went. He was much calmer, collected,
Calculating.
calculating, whereas Kylo is much more impulsive and still that impetuous child.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think there are some differences, but I can see where that kind of came together, and they kind of combined a lot of these different characters into these two characters of Rey and Kylo or Ben.
Fortunately, one character I don't see ever seeing the light of day in the EU is Dash Rendar.
Yeah. I mean,
although I think Dash would be a great addition because I think Shadows of the Empire should remain canon.
Yeah.
So in turn, if I don't think Dash Rendar will ever be introduced, I don't think, even though we did in current canon books and I think even in Rebels, the Black Sun.
Black Sun is canon.
The Black Sun is canon, but Exar Kun as of yet is not.
You mean Caesar?
Or Caesar, yeah, excuse me, Prince Caesar.
Yeah.
And he's another one I regret to say I don't think he's ever going to see the light of day of canon. And if he is, if I'm wrong and he is, he's going to be nothing more than a footnote mention.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, you mentioned these characters that it seems like they take bits and pieces and kind of add them to other characters. So, like a character like Dash Rendar, you can almost look at that and say, well, that's Poe.
True.
To some extent. You can say, we just took little aspects of the character and then we put them in here, changed their name, and, you have Poe Dameron.
But if I were to pick an EU character for Poe Dameron, who was the character from the Jedi Knight series?
Oh, you'd have to ask me this. It's been so long.
Yeah, the one that became like basically Luke's like first real apprentice after being a smuggler and
Kip.
No, not Kip.
Not Kip.
The Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy were basically around him.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Leave a comment down below if we don't come to it beforehand, but
I know.
I can more see the personality of that character within Poe.
Yeah.
The unwilling to follow and tote the straight line, if you will, which Poe really demonstrated in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, what about, do you think that we'll ever see the canonization? This is another character that, unless they do some major flip-flopping and rewriting, and I suppose she could show up, is Mara.
I think Mara will show up. I don't think she'll show up in the capacity that we expect. She may be the Emperor's hand, or the daughter of the Emperor's hand. They may tweak that idea. But her becoming Mara Jade Skywalker?
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, she's if anything, she'll be what I refer to, because I know people want to say gray, but a wild Jedi. She'll be like a Maz Kanata type character later on down the line, discovered probably as an older lady who has given up on being the Emperor's hand because obviously the Jedi are dead, but she no longer, follows the teachings of any force. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, your audio is kind of weird there for a second.
Was it?
Yeah. It sounds kind of like robotic.
Huh. You sound fine, and hopefully the recording is doing fine. We are 29 minutes in, so we're doing good.
That's good. Okay. Well, let's look at some of the, what are some of your favorite stories in the EU? And let's leave out for right now, the Thrawn trilogy, because I think pretty much that's one of everyone's favorites. So, what are some of your favorite stories that you remember from the old EU?
I love the formation of the Jedi Temple on
Mm,
on
yeah,
Yavin 4.
yeah,
You know, the discovery of the Sith Temple underneath the Masani Temple. You know, the ghost of Exar Kun, the searching down force sensitive pupils. You know,
yes,
that I love that whole entire aspect. And again, one of the books that really made me fall in love with the EU was one of the first EU books I ever bought. Now, I borrowed the Thrawn trilogy, the Heirs of the Empire and all that. I borrowed those.
yeah,
The
yeah.
first one I ever bought was the Crystal Star.
Mm,
So I very much have a very special soft place in my heart for that. But these are all original trilogy spin-off books. You
yeah.
know, one of my all-time favorite books from the EU came much later after the prequels, and that was Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader.
Yes, yes. That was a very good. That was an awesome
That was
book.
a phenomenal book
Yeah,
exploring the year one of Darth Vader. Like literally takes place after his being put into the Iron Lung, if you will, and you
yeah.
discover that Palpatine had used cheap parts and components to reconstruct Vader because he didn't want Vader to become so powerful that he would ever become a threat to the Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
how Anakin had to struggle with even using his new body and his new suit. The pain that he had to deal with, the clunkiness of it, which is why his lightsaber style changed from being so flashy as it was in Revenge of the Sith to hack and slash as it was throughout the original trilogy. You
Yeah.
know, it was just, and of course, finally seeing Vader hunt down Jedi,
Mm-hmm.
was just
Yeah.
a thrill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, well, for me, one of my favorite is in that same era that you were talking about originally. It was I Jedi.
I
I
Jedi was
love that style. What's that?
I Jedi was a great book.
Yeah, I love that style of writing of the first person, almost like a journal. But yeah, I just love that story. I love the telling of the path of the character. But yeah, it was a really good. I also like and I go back and forth because there's some elements that I didn't like, but I loved the Centerpoint Station trilogies.
Okay.
I love getting more into the backstory of Han Solo and just kind of finding out a little bit more about Corellia, about about Han, and just that overall, just kind of filling in the gaps, which is what I think uh, was really good about the EU, was filling in a lot of these gaps in these characters and really fleshing them out even more.
Right.
Uh, and I thought that those books did that. I also liked the to some extent the Truce of Bakura. Um,
Okay.
I like the for a long time the Suruki were one of my favorite alien races. I know they're kind of silly, but I thought they were just they were so different than anything we'd really seen in Star or heard or seen in Star Wars up to that point. Um, so I thought it was different. I thought it was also different of seeing these two opposing forces that had been at war with each other for so long, now suddenly forced to join forces and fight together.
Okay.
This classic, the enemy of my enemy is
It,
my friend type of a thing.
okay. Yeah. No, that was definitely cool, and you made me think of it like a really off the wall book, which was based off of like original ideas and designs of George Lucas, which is a fun book to read, even though like it wasn't even canon during the canon day or EU canon days. Was
Yeah,
Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
that was a really good book.
What made that book really special was seeing the original conceptual designs that Lucas had for a lot of the story for the original trilogy, such as like kyber crystals being the physical embodiment of the force as opposed to being just something that powers Death Stars and lightsabers. and stuff of that nature. Like that was really an interesting take on the Star Wars universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Obviously it doesn't tie into anything within the EU, and it was a scrap design for Star Wars in general, but it was just interesting to see that.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the best equivalent I can give is we know George Lucas created a story treatment for episode 7, 8, and 9. It would be
Mm-hmm.
interesting to have that released as a book,
Yeah, I think yeah, you're right. That would be
just to
interesting.
see what Lucas had in mind.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, here's another question, and someone posed this. Um, do you think that they should continue the Legends line, not have it be canon, but continue stories that happened after the last books?
I've always said yes, and my research to back this up. One, we know a lot of people love the Legends series. Okay, the
Mm-hmm.
EU. Um, I myself being one of them. I do like I shit on the EU a lot because of the fact of there's a lot of things that I think were wrong with the EU, but
Yeah.
overall in general, I love the EU. EU kept me interested and entertained in Star Wars until there was more Star Wars movies and more Star Wars stories to be told.
Yeah.
There was a lot of crap in it, but everything that lasts that long is going to have things that aren't so great, you
Yeah.
know. But here's my proof of why that would work in current Star Wars fashion. They just released a book from a certain point of view.
Mm-hmm.
They also released a book about the legend of Luke Skywalker, both of which are blatantly not canon.
Yeah.
Okay, they are from other people's point of views or people telling the mythos or stories, the legends of the stories that we all know, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what legends is?
Well, and I mean, it says it right there at the beginning of every Star Wars movie ever that's ever been made. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So you can have these stories and say, well, these are the legends. We don't know what's true and what's not. These things happened so long ago that we're, we can't really know what happened or what didn't happen. So in that sense, you can build these legends as being, well, these are the legends that people have told.
Well,
You know,
that's what I was gonna say. Is like if canon is historical document, for lack of a better term,
yeah,
then EU would be like the campfire stories,
exactly. Yeah,
and just because they're not true doesn't mean we don't sit around and tell
yeah, yeah. Like the um, to use a historical reference, you know, the canon stories are like the actual documents that we have, like the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the Magna Carta. These actual stories and things that we know, the Doomsday Book from medieval times, where they're actually written down historical things that happened, and the legend stories are like the Epic of Gilgamesh,
them. Right.
or these other great stories of throughout history.
Legend of King
Um,
Arthur. God, there's so
yeah,
many of them. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, but um, anyway,
So yeah, I definitely think there's a place where you can allow authors and fans to still have the EU, still have the legends. You can still build off of it and everything else. Just let it be known. It's like write whatever you want. Treat it like fan fiction, for lack of a better term,
yeah.
because it's not canon. It
And I think that's a great place where Lucas Arts and Disney can really tap into the fandom. They can say, we'll let you, the fans, continue these stories.
Mhm.
We'll have and I know Star Trek used to do this. I think Star Wars did too, where they would do these fan stories, and that was the Legends. There is a great place for that, where you can write these stories and add them to the mythos to some extent, but they don't necessarily have to worry about these stories becoming canon or anything like that. So you have the fandom has a much broader brush that these budding storytellers can paint on
Well,
with the legends.
well, to build off of what you're saying, it was Star Wars. Lucas and Lucasfilm did encourage fan films, fan fiction. Uh, he loved it. As far as he was concerned, it was like everybody playing in his sandbox. He was fine with it.
Yeah, well, they still to this day, as far as I know, they still have a fan film contest.
Yeah, pretty much. But Disney's a little bit more tighter wrap with it than they used to be.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Paramount, on the other hand, I mean, again, look at the lawsuit of Star Trek and NXR. Basically killing a fan story that really had nothing to do with current canon of Star Trek, but because it was gaining so much popularity, Paramount's like, nope, copyright infringement.
yeah.
They
Well,
really discouraged
that
to
was
it.
a whole. There's a whole other set of instant things that went with that, where it was the thing of are they trying to make a profit from this movie?
Right.
That went to a whole thing of they were using professional actors, they were using professional sets. It wasn't necessarily just a Axanar went from not to get off topic, but Axanar went from being just a fan film to this is a full-fledged big, quote unquote, air quotes, big budget movie. They were using high tech, very, it wasn't just like this little small fan film, but that's a different topic. This isn't talking Trek.
True, but I do have a Star Trek question just based on that, though, just so I can understand myself.
Okay.
You're saying because it became big budget, they're using name actors or whatever the case may be is one of the reasons they went after Axanar. Why didn't they go after Star Trek Renegades, who was using Tim Russ as Tuvok and Nichelle Nichols and Walter Cronin as Uhura and Chekhov? I mean,
I think it was just timing because in the end, Renegades did fill that pinch. They had to take the Star Trek out of the name because they still wanted to use those actors, but with the new rules, they said they couldn't use actors that had been in previous iterations of Star Trek. And there was a bunch of other rules that they put in too, but I think that it was just a matter of, at the time, Axanar was making the most noise and bringing the most hype, so they're the ones that got the attention. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, so to speak.
Okay.
I think that's what it was. It was just Axanar was making the most noise and was, the biggest thing out there at the time, so it got the attention.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. Again, we can get off the Star Trek topic. It was the one comparison I didn't get. It's like why attack one when this one had established stars from the Star Trek universe? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Playing their established roles.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
yeah, back to Star Wars.
Back to Star Wars. This detour has been brought to you by Star Trek.
There you go. It might have been one of them fucked up timelines that they constantly throw in when they can't figure out what they want to do with their stories.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was the other thing that they kind of like the comics did a few times, were these kind of crossover from one story genre to another story that I think you can also do with any, like, you decide to do any new Legends book, you can do those type of stories and put those in Legend.
Right.
You can do like a Star Trek, Star Trek meets Star Wars, or a Battlestar Galactica meets Star Wars, or Doctor Who meets Star Wars, and you don't necessarily have to put them in the canon. You can put them in the Legends category and not have to worry about how this is going to mess up and how are you going to write this out and how are you going to change things to fit into the new canon. You can just say this is in Legends. It doesn't, we don't have to worry about that. We can screw with the timeline all we want over here because it really doesn't matter.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. And I mean, like, again, in the comic series in its own right, I mean, they have a series running right now with IDW that is not canon.
Yeah.
Star Wars Adventures.
Hmm.
Okay, it's just fun little stories.
Yeah.
So there's nobody saying that the Legends series, because we always refer to it as the EU, but it's been branded Legends. So let's just call it what it is. The Legends series
Yeah.
is not canon. That doesn't mean it can't be fun stories.
And it also doesn't mean that, like, and they've already proven that with Thrawn, that that Disney and Lucas Arts and film isn't uh, above taking ideas and characters and bringing them into the canon.
No,
You
just
know,
when
they
it fits right to their story.
they've already shown that they can do that and do that successfully, do that very successfully. Um, just tweak the stories a little bit, tweak the characters, and bing bam boom, you got them, you know, right there.
Well, again, Thrawn's a perfect example.
Exactly.
When Thrawn in the trilogy took place, it was 5 years after Return of the Jedi. In
Yeah.
the extended universe, in the Legends, when they brought him in Rebels, it's before A New Hope.
Right. Well,
So
and that's the thing is we don't know how long how long he had been a Grand Admiral and how long it was what the time period it was when he was sent to the Outer Rim, to the
yeah,
unknown
to the
regions.
unknown space. Yeah.
Yeah, and when he came back, so he could have very realistically have been around during that time, um, and been involved in different things with different rebel factions. Um, so I mean, it's very possible. We don't know how long his species lives or anything like that, but
All right. Well, let me ask you a question then. On based on that, knowing that Thrawn is in Rebels right now,
yes.
and Rebels has 3, 4, 5 more episodes before the series is done.
Hmm.
Do you think that part of the idea that Disney may have, make it an over and under if you want, over and under 50%. We'll say this on this theory. Thrawn survives Rebels, goes throughout the original trilogy in unknown space, comes back, and they make the Thrawn trilogy canon.
Hmm.
Because nothing that happens in the Thrawn trilogy, if memory serves correctly, would contradict anything building up to the new canon.
Yeah. Hmm. As far as redoing the original Thrawn trilogy, I'm going to say under 50%. As far as bringing Thrawn back, I'm going to say over 50%. I don't necessarily think that they will just do a redo of the original Thrawn trilogy. I think there's a good chance that he survives Rebels, and goes into the unknown space. I think that could be part of his punishment for failing to destroy the rebels. It could be that the Emperor banishes him to the Outer Rim, sort of. So I think that there's a good chance he survives and comes back later on. Whether or not we'll see him in the movie, I think that's definitely an under 50% that we actually see him in the movies. Uh,
If we saw him at all, I think he would probably appear in something like Solo, but maybe as
yeah,
a passing thing. Not
yeah.
necessarily like Vader's involvement with Rogue One, but
Hmm.
like one of Han's dealings with the Empire.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
And I can even see it just being a mention,
Right.
that we don't necessarily see him, but we hear of, you know, we hear Grand Admiral Thrawn name dropped, something like that. But I do think that he will show up in maybe later books that take place after Episode 9, um, or even between, anything that takes place, because we don't know how long the time period is going to be between in in uh, in universe time is going to take place between Episode 9, 8, and 9.
Right.
So it's possible that there could be books where he shows up in there, or like I said, afterwards. I think the idea that I know a lot of people were hoping that it would be the Chiss ascendancy that rode to the rescue in The Last Jedi, and well, obviously that didn't happen, and I think anyone who legitimately thought that was going to was,
Ooh,
yes.
ooh. I just something that came to me. I mean, obviously, I need to work on it a little more to make it a quote unquote fan theory. But what if Thrawn and the remnants of the Empire, which was what the Empire was during the Thrawn trilogy, are who answer Leia's call
Oh,
from the Last Jedi?
yes. Because I watched a video, and they were talking about, I believe it was from our friends from, uh, no, it was not from our friends on Generation Tech. It was actually from Star Wars Explained.
Okay,
And they were talking about the difference between the Empire and the First Order, and the fact that the First Order is not the Empire.
right.
So, in fact, a lot of Imperials would have looked down on the First Order
Right.
for their attack. So, yes, having the Imperial remnant come in and save the day, that would be a very interesting wow.
And it would tie back in with some of the stories within the EU where the remnant empire did finally make a truce with
Yeah.
the New Republic, mostly because of the Yuzan Vong. But instead of the Yuzan Vong, now it's the First Order.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That would be a really interesting. Yeah, I can almost picture that in my mind too, of them fighting and calling, and then suddenly these Imperial Star Destroyers show up and start hammering on the First Order.
the old school Star Destroyers, yeah.
Yeah, the Imperial class. Yeah.
Wow.
That almost gave me goosebumps.
That would be cool, but again, it's just something that popped in my head, people. It is not a fan theory. Don't get your hopes up. Don't destroy episode 9 on yourself. It's,
No.
you know,
It's fun to theorize, but don't take the theory so seriously that
Yeah.
when they don't happen, that you're.
or on the opposite end of the coin, don't sit there bashing me. Oh, that's a stupid idea. It was just something that popped in my head.
Exactly.
You know, it'd be fun to see
Well,
happen, but it doesn't have to happen. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I think there's plenty of things in the EU. I would love to see again. I'd love to see Shadows of the Empire, especially if I were to choose one book out of the whole entire EU. Shadows of the Empire, I would love to see become
yeah.
canon again.
Well, I mean, we have the later on. It's going to be several years from now. We have the new Ryan Johnson trilogy, which he's already said is going to take place somewhere completely different outside of what we know of the canonized Star Wars universe. In a different time, different place, and different characters. So you have an entire galaxy, an entire plethora of stories in the old EU for him to draw inspiration from, and characters like Prince Zizor and these other characters are Revan, Darth Nihilus. These other characters are. He has a huge bevy of stories and ideas to draw from. So it's going to be very interesting to see, for me to see where he goes with the new trilogy.
Well, I'm excited for the new trilogy because just like I was excited for the new saga, or the new trilogy, as it were, the prequel or the sequel trilogy, because of the fact that I've read the EU, I know the EU. I don't need to have those up on the screen because I've already seen it, I've already read it.
Yeah.
What I'm most excited about, and I know a lot of people are dogging Ryan Johnson right now for Last Jedi. You're welcome to your opinion. I don't agree with you, but you're welcome to it. But in my mind, I am excited about a brand new Star Wars galaxy where we don't know shit about shit. We don't know shit about any of the characters. The one thing I will disagree with is I don't want Ryan Johnson to have Revan, and this is the reason why. Not because I don't think he would do Revan justice. I do. But I think the one person out of all of them that would, in my mind, be the right person to bring a Revan story to canon and especially to the big screen, to me, is Dave Filoni.
Mm.
You got to give Revan to Filoni.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody else could do the justice that Filoni could.
Yeah.
With the exception of Revan's creator, but that was a video game programmer. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So
True. True. Yeah, that would be interesting because that would be Filoni. If he did get that and it was a movie, that would be Filoni's first movie, wouldn't it?
yeah, it would be his first live action movie. Because you can argue the point that he did have a movie with the Clone Wars movie, but that was an
Yeah.
animation movie, and that led towards
Yeah.
the Clone Wars cartoon TV series. But
Mm-hmm.
to give him his first live action movie, I would say give him Revan because I
Mm-hmm.
think he's the one that would do it right.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. Well, all right then. Well, we're going to wrap things up here. As always, you can find us on Facebook at just search for Realm of the Mist, or on War of the Stars personal Facebook page. Just search again War of the Stars. It should come up. For those of you who are wondering, due to a few things that came up, we're canceling, for now at least, the live Q&A that we were planning on doing on the 5th of March. We're going to push that back a few weeks. We got a bunch of Chris, why don't you tell them anything that's coming up, some of the big news or anything coming up with Realm of the Mist?
Well, right now, Realm of the Mist just got done dropping today a return show called After Hours. Literally just went up today, so go check that out on YouTube. We also finally got up our episode of Journal of the Jedi, where the master of canon library himself, Brian Miller, and myself rated the new canon Star Wars comic books from worst to first. So if you want to check out that list, it's up on YouTube as well. Of course, War of the Stars is around. Breaking the Fourth Wall has made its return for the second half of season 3. Uh, Talking Trek is on hiatus at the moment. So is America's Pop Culture Magazine. However, we, but however we, he's recording. He's recording. But of course, we do have a big announcement of a impromptu.
Hold on, dude. I gotta.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just a second.
Okay, not a problem. Not a problem. I'll finish talking while he ducks out. We have an impromptu show coming up here soon from Mr. Dan Laria himself. An impromptu, improvised acting, call it radio drama for lack of a better term, of an original design of his own called Academy Earth. So that is in production as we speak. We are putting it together, getting the actors and the voices and the stories figured out to be able to bring, and that will be. I don't know if that's going to be weekly, bi-weekly, or bi-monthly scenarios. Again, that's all within works, but I can officially announce that that is coming, and it will be coming this year. So keep checking back if that's something you're interested in. Uh, it should be a fun time. Otherwise, you can find us on Twitter at Realm Mist and also at realmofthemist.com.
Right, and you can find me at Mark Mark Tolly on Facebook and at John Mark Tolly on Twitter. You can find me again right here, mostly on War of the Stars, though I do show up occasionally on other shows. As always, remember to like and subscribe right down there. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Real quick. On Facebook, my personal page, you look up Christopher Michael Stolle, my personal page. Monday is my 41st birthday. And as a birthday promotion, I had signed on with Facebook to raise money for the charity of the Wounded Warrior Project. So, guys, if you want to send me a happy birthday, please go to my page, find and click the link for the Wounded Warrior Project, and donate to help out a great cause for disabled veterans.
Yeah, definitely. All right. On that note, happy birthday,
Thank you.
early, old man.
Hey, you got more grade than I do.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. That's because I have a toddler.
I've I've got an 8 and 9 year old. Does that count?
Mm,
And a
yeah.
21-year-old.
Mm.
Yeah. I could be grandpa any moment. You never know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Anyway, all right. We will see you in a few weeks, and until then, this is remember the force will be with you always.
And also with you.